The Ocean Majesty was more than a ship, it was a floating city, a palace of glass and steel gliding through the Caribbean under a golden August sun. She stretched over 1,000 feet from bow to stern, her 12 decks brimming with restaurants, swimming pools, theaters, spas, and suites that rivaled the penthouses of Manhattan. Her passengers, most of them vacationers and retirees with deep pockets, had settled into the rhythm of life at sea, morning yoga classes on the upper deck, endless trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres by the pool, evenings spent swaying to live jazz or watching Broadway-style performances in the Grand Theater. The world beyond the endless horizon seemed far away, irrelevant, almost unreal. At the helm was Captain Richard Kane, a man whose crisp white uniform seemed to absorb and reflect authority. At 53, with his neatly cropped silver hair and sharply trimmed beard, he had the air of someone who had never once been caught unprepared. For 3 decades he had navigated cruise liners across oceans without incident, his name synonymous with reliability among the Sapphire Cruise Line's executives. He ran the Ocean Majesty with precision, like a maestro conducting a grand orchestra. Down on Deck 4, far from the marble atriums and chandeliers, Miriam Cole was finishing her evening rounds. She moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who had done this job for years, her housekeeping cart neatly stocked with fresh towels, miniature bottles of shampoo, and starched white linens. She was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried herself with the quiet dignity of a woman who had lived enough life to know how to keep her composure when others could not. To most passengers, Miriam was invisible. She was the polite woman who slipped in and out of their cabins while they were at dinner, ensuring their beds were turned down and their glasses of water were refilled. She worked the lower deck suites. Less glamorous than the penthouses above, but filled with guests who still expected perfection. Miriam gave it to them without complaint. What no one knew was that she carried another identity beneath her calm exterior. Before she ever set foot on a cruise liner as a housekeeper, Miriam had served 15 years in the U.S. Navy. She had stood on the bridges of ships far larger than this, managed engineering crews in the dead of night, and once taken command of a failing destroyer in a typhoon when her superior officer was incapacitated. But those years were behind her now, or so she thought. It was just after 8:10 p.m. when the first anomaly occurred. On the bridge, Kane stood near the navigation console, chatting with his first officer, when the helmsman frowned. "Captain, autopilot just disengaged." Kane's expression tightened. "Re-engage." The helmsman tapped the control panel. The green auto light blinked once, then went dark. No response. "Manual steering," Kane ordered. The helm wheel turned, but the Ocean Majesty didn't respond. "Check the rudder indicator." The helmsman swallowed. "Sir, it's frozen." A low hum passed through the deck, an almost imperceptible vibration that every sailor instinctively recognized as trouble. The lights flickered once. Then, all at once, the navigation screens filled with static. "Communications, get me the engine room," Kane barked. The comms officer lifted the phone, but there was nothing, no dial tone, no crackle of connection. Just dead silence. By 8:12 p.m., the mood on the bridge had shifted from puzzled to tense. "Sir, radar's down," another officer called out. "We're blind." Kane's voice sharpened. "How is that possible? We have redundant systems." Before he could finish, the main lighting across the ship dimmed, casting the bridge into shadow. The faint hum of the engines faltered, then fell away entirely. The Ocean Majesty, 150,000 tons of steel and luxury, was now adrift, powerless, and blind in open waters. On Deck 4, Miriam had just closed the door to cabin 411 when she felt it, the subtle change in the ship's heartbeat. Every large vessel had a rhythm, the steady thrum of engines, the faint vibration through the soles of your shoes, the gentle sway that told you the ship was pushing forward. Now that rhythm was off. The hum was gone. The sway had shifted. She walked quickly to the nearest porthole. Outside, the night sea stretched endlessly, black and glistening under the moonlight. But she could tell immediately from the movement of the water and the sluggish roll of the ship that they were drifting without propulsion. Her chest tightened. She had seen this before. And she knew, if they had lost both propulsion and navigation, time was already running out. Up on the main deck, passengers were beginning to notice. The music from the jazz lounge had stopped mid-song. The great dining hall had gone dim, making the gold chandeliers flicker ominously. A baby's cry pierced the uneasy silence. Couples exchanged nervous glances, whispering questions the crew couldn't, or wouldn't, answer. Back on the bridge, the captain's frustration was boiling over. "Where the hell is engineering?" Kane demanded. "Why hasn't anyone reported in?" "They're offline too, sir," the comms officer said grimly. "Fine, send someone down there." The bridge doors opened. Every head turned. Miriam Cole stepped inside, still in her Navy housekeeping uniform, a small flashlight clipped to her belt. She shouldn't have been there, housekeepers had no business on the bridge, but she moved as if she belonged, her shoulders square, her gaze calm and direct. "Captain," she said evenly, "your control systems are down because your main power relays tripped in sequence. The backup didn't engage because the surge burned the switchboard interface. If you restart them in the wrong order, you'll fry your navigation core permanently." The bridge fell silent. Kane stared at her, incredulous. "And how exactly would you know that?" Her voice didn't waver. "Because before I was a housekeeper, I was Chief Systems Officer aboard the USNS Medusa. And I've been in your position before, on a night a lot rougher than this." The officers looked from her to the captain, unsure how to react. Kane's mouth opened as if to challenge her, but nothing came out. He had spent 30 years commanding ships without ever having to rely on a housekeeper for technical advice. And yet, her tone, her vocabulary, the sharp precision of her analysis, told him instantly she wasn't bluffing. For the first time that night, Captain Richard Kane froze.